I'm Niall Kaufman. We presented part one of this series, the story of John Vander and his sister Issy during their life in Holland during the German occupation of World War II. Please see the first part if you have it. Life went on, and we have some more stories here of their life as people in a small town in occupied Holland. Babies were born, people died, and you'll hear the Vander story about these issues. People got married. You'll also hear the story of how they got connected to people in Iowa and eventually left Holland to move to Iowa for a different life.
Tell us about the church your family was part of in your town.
Yeah. We, of course, like I said, we were, during those years, we were going back and forth from one church to the next, So I got to know the Mennonite church through that, because Mom was, we call it Mom. It was not our mom, but it was our second mom, but it became...
Tell the story of all that. Go ahead and tell the story of how you got a second mom.
Well, because after Issy was born in 42, the nurse that was taking care of my mother at that time when she was living and the baby, which was Issy, was quite involved with the two of them. And then mother passed away, and the nurse took care of Issy and followed Issy around, making sure that she was taken care of, because she took a liking to Issy when she was a baby. Then,
so how many days after birth did your mother die?
9 days after Issy was born, mother passed away.
Shoot, I was a C-section, and there was not medication around for infection and stuff. And
so she died from infection?
Probably.
Yeah.
So she was coming to visit Issy at my aunt's, which was actually not too far away from where the hospital was. I think it was only 10 kilometers. And then she would come and visit, and Dad, of course, knew her from at the hospital, and then they kind of got together, and next thing you know, Dad was following her around, and then my grandparents told Dad that, hey, you really should marry her.
2 years later.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So then in 44, they got married during the war. And that was another funny thing, because Dad was walking around like most of us was, because he was working at the furniture factory in the Yower. Was a big furniture factory, and Dad was one of the department heads over part of that. It was a big factory. They made furniture, and he was excused because he didn't have to go, because they made furniture for the Germans. So that way, Dad had a way off of it, and then he had papers to show him that whenever they stopped him, he showed that he was exempt from having to go anywhere, and he was kind of in the clear. Maybe that's why he worked for the underground, because he knew he could move around, although after midnight or after dark, there was a curfew that you could not be out on the street.
Oh, okay.
So you could not be on the street, no matter who you were. You could not be outdoors. But then Dad found ways around that, but he was something else. he got out of things that unbelievable
he had
how
a-
he manipulated people and did things. He was quite
He
a,
had a Nazi follow him one night on a bike,
yeah.
and Dad knew there was a canal ahead, but he also knew there was a corner that he could go around. So he went around the corner, and the Nazi went whoop, in the water.
In the dark, if you don't know where you're at, if you
Yeah.
just follow somebody, you know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, anyway, another thing that happened at the furniture factory where my grandpa worked there, and Omari worked there, and Yelda worked there, and
Oh, really?
like 3, 4, 5 of the Vander worked in that same factory, okay? Then Pate was Dad's other brother, who was the department head of another section of the plant where they made furniture. Also, you know, they're all furniture. He came up with an idea about making some furniture for the Germans, and we will glue it up like we always do, but he would make the glue so that it would not stay together after so long that it would come apart. And they made furniture for a while and sent it to Germany, and of course they never heard the story after that, but he originated to make the furniture for the Germans, beautiful nice furniture, and maybe 6 months later there was much left of the furniture. But that was Dad's brother, he was another one of, Peter Patriots. Those guys, all the boys were up to, Omari was another one.
Oh, my goodness. They were just full of,
They had a place behind the grandparents' house, used to be an old farm, and it had a little kind of like a barn building behind attached to the house behind it, where you could still see where the gutters were, where the cows were tied up and so forth. Anyway, upstairs was what the hayloft, the old hayloft used to be. Well, up there, the boys, Dad's brothers, they made their own boats. They were boat builders actually, from way back, from the Werf, Vander Werf.
Yeah.
That's how the name came. But anyway, it was still in the family more or less. And upstairs in that hayloft, they were building a boat, always for somebody, but they made their own boat. And I remember they were working on that, and they had hay around there and so forth. But back in the corner, they had a clandestine shortwave radio, all covered up. And I knew that during the war that they had that back in there, and they could listen to the BBC and keep up with all the real news, where the troops were in Africa or in Italy, or they knew exactly, and they had a map out there where they always put everything on there, what they knew, what happened, and where they were, what the troops were, and they had that radio up there, and nobody ever knew, or nobody ever looked for it, but I did know that. And of course, I never talked about it, because they told me, you know, I'd be in a different place probably. But Dad's brothers were like that they got away with all kinds of things like that during the war. Those rascals. Oh, well anyway.
well, then even
They go
like,
fishing, because fishing was part of my great-grandfather's profession see, he was a fisherman in the canals and in the small lakes around there. And you can go fishing, but you cannot use nets to
now
catch fish.
was that on Heights side or
Yeah.
Mom's side?
No,
Okay,
that was my
the Vander Werf.
great-grandfather.
Yeah.
Parker Hendrick. Anyway, they would go out in a boat and they'd take nets with them, but you wouldn't dare get caught with them. And those guys, they went anyway, And I've gone with them, go fishing. They'd go out on the canal and be out there. And then police would come around and they wanted to see what you're doing, you know. And then they would hold up their fishing poles. You know, they were just fishing and showing up, you know, they were fishing. But the police thought there was something funny going on with having 3 guys in the boat, you know, and with all that. Well, anyway, they were fishing with nets. And they were catching fish like crazy with nets, you know. They would put them up, because some of those places were dug out for peat. Out in the country, they had a peat bog. Yeah, and they would be, you know, about 40 feet across and maybe 100 feet long, but they would be all dug out, and it's full of water and full of fish. And they put the net across there, and then they'd go at one end, and then they'd take their poles and start chasing the fish into the nets, and they caught fish. But anyway, those guys are all up to them.
Were your dad's brothers involved in the underground as well?
I don't think so. Because no, I don't think so. I never heard later on to talk about that either. Maybe that would have been a little risky if they did. I don't know. But they were not connected to that I know of. So anyway, yeah, we always had food on the table. We were so lucky though. We always had food. It wasn't the best always either, but we had.
So even during the tough starvation period of German invasion, you guys had food?
We had
potatoes.
Dad made sure he was a barter. He bartered because we have also, next to the furniture factory, there was a coffee, tea, and tobacco factory, Dow Egbert's, Day A. I don't have the stuff here, but anyway.
Yeah, we got it around here.
It's a big factory, and it's still there yet, and it's worldwide, they produce that stuff. Dow Egbert's.
Well, they have it at Hardee's, I think. Hardee's serves it.
It's over here,
Folgers. What?
Where's Evie at? I don't know.
Somewhere. Oh, she's on the phone.
Anyway, Oaklawn over here, their kitchen, they have Dow Egbert coffee machines out there. Hospital has them. I've seen them over there. Goshen
Good coffee.
And a lot of motels and hotels. Anyway, Dad was always able to get coffee because there's 2 of my other uncles that worked at the coffee place, and he was able to get coffee. Of course, a lot of that stuff was all sent to Germany, so it was like rationing, but you could still get it, and he was able to get it, and he would go to the farm and trade coffee for butter or coffee for rye or whatever. Dad was a barter all the time. He always made sure that he got his stuff that we needed. Sugar was hard to get. That was just one thing that was hard to get until later on they started making sugar out of beets. And then we started having beet sugar, which was not great, but it worked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we had food where we were, and we were fortunate to get through the war that way. Of course, heating was another thing. Coal was terrible hard to get, if you'd get any at all. But Dad always had wood from the furniture factory. He always managed to bring wood home, and so we had heat. Yeah, we were fortunate to go through all that, make it. Yeah.
So the church your family you grew up in was what?
Dutch Reform.
The what?
Dutch Reform.
Yeah. Okay, now we go back to the Dutch Reformed and the Mennonite. So, right, was it toward the end of the war?
Well, it was like in 44 because
Oh,
that's
I
when
think
Dad
we got a
married.
care package, but no, that was
Yeah.
right after 45.
Yeah.
We got a care package from the US. And, all kinds of stuff was in there. You know, they sent stuff and blue jeans for me that fitted me, but it had orange thread in it. So Mom took the pants and took all the orange threads out of it so I could wear them. Because how in the world can you walk around with orange thread in the pants?
And there was and I have a picture here, there was also another man's pants, and Tanta Aka took it apart and made a dress for me out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, those are feed sacks.
Well, that's what I had, and there's
Yeah.
a picture of me.
Because over
in
here,
that.
remember you had feed sacks that you used for clothes? Well, there was that kind of material
Yeah.
also in the package. But then there was soap in there and things that you needed right away. And and also, there was a letter in there. No, not a letter. There was a name in the package.
Yeah.
You know, the people that put it together, that sent it. And the name was Owen Martin and Vernon Hooley.
Vernon,
And they were from Manson, Iowa.
Mennonite church.
And there was Mennonite church. And Dad jumped for joy because he wanted so bad to get out of Holland. And now he had a connection on how to get connected to somebody in the States. And he started working on getting all that paperwork done and try to get visas. It took 3 years.
3 years.
To get everything together and then sell our belongings mostly because we rented the house we lived in. And Dad made a box, whatever
What's it?
dimensions, like 3 foot by 3 foot by 4 foot, big wooden box.
2 of them, wasn't it?
No, I think it's
Just
one that I
one.
know it.
One crate.
And try to put everything in it that they think they might need over where we're going, not knowing where we're going or what it's gonna be like. All we knew was on a farm, someplace on a farm in Iowa. That's where these folks lived. We had no idea because never seen a picture of anything in the States. So they put pots and pans, sewing machines, and,
kitchen.
you know, all the things that gonna need to live on. Well, that all went together and
And some of
Finally-
his tools too, didn't it?
all Dad's tools.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. All of Dad's. I still have the toolbox yet. No, that's not the same one, is it?
It could be.
Maybe it is.
Yes.
Anyway, I still have a lot of tools from Dad that he brought over from Holland because he thought he might need it because he didn't know what he was gonna be doing. So, anyway, we got connected with the Mennonite church in Manson, Iowa. And that's where we wound up. Then we came to the States and we wound up over at Hooley and Martin's farm over there. And they found a place for us at Twin Lakes.
Yeah.
One of them had a cottage there, a summer cottage, and they put us in there for the time being, and we lived there until that's following summer. That was in December
Yeah.
when we came here.
That was the first time I
Colder than
ever
Billy Heck. Oh,
saw.
we had never seen snow like that, but
No.
man, I tell you, it was cold.
They had bubble lights on their tree, and I had never seen bubble lights before. I was fascinated by that.
So, yeah, they took us to the store. They fit us out in 4 buckled overshoes, and which we had never seen what the like, you know, and winter clothes that we didn't have at all because we never had that kind of winter clothes. So, yeah, so we lived there at the lake till the summer came, and then we moved to Jolly, which was just, what, 6 miles
Yeah,
away
not very far.
to Jolly, the big town of Jolly with 150 people, you know. And that's where the lumber yard was. And the lumber yard for Westerman Lumber, that's where they got Dad a job at the lumber yard.
Okay.
So he got kind of into his wood business, and he started making cabinets over there for farms and so forth, and that's where we started out at, and I went to school there in Jolly. We both did in Jolly. We were in the consolidated school.
We had to learn the language though.
Yeah.
Took me a year.
You didn't know English before you
No.
came?
Well, she didn't. I had English in Holland before, right? The last year that I was in school in Holland, they took English, you know,
Uh-huh.
in 46 and 47. We went to high school, and, well, you, German, English, French, you all had to learn all them languages. And I was familiar with the English language, and sure enough,
Not me.
I got along, well, quite well, I guess you might say, after we got off the ship. You know, it took us 14 days to get across that pond over there and wound up in
Sure.
Hoboken, New Jersey, and then from there we flew to, I think
Des
from,
Moines, wasn't it?
from LaGuardia, we went to Washington DC, we flew first, and then from Washington DC, we flew to Indianapolis. And that's where we got off the plane in Indianapolis. No, Indianapolis, then we went to Des Moines.
Yeah.
With a smaller plane, a DC-3 from Indianapolis to Des Moines. An old DC-3. And then we landed there, and there we got on it's a train, but it's a interurban electric one-car train that goes from Des Moines to Fort Dodge.
Oh, really?
And we rode that. Oh, it was cold in that thing. Oh, it was so cold in there. Mom was freezing to death.
What month did you get to Des Moines?
December.
December.
Yeah, we landed in here on December 14. That was in the middle of December,
Sure.
Yeah.
just before Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we wound up in Fort Dodge at the train station, and Hooley's and Martin's and everybody was waiting for us. They were tracking us, I think.
Sure.
They were all there waiting. So
See
we
this
got a
family?
taste of Iowa over there. Boy, I tell you. Forget those days.
So how did you get in line to get that care package?
They're
Well,
from
how-
the
From the
Mennonite-
church.
the Mennonite church.
So
Mennonite church dealing them out, or handing out the packages.
We were
go back and
attending-
tell us about your growing up in the Reformed Church and then how you got involved in the Mennonites because of the...
Oh, yeah, you know,
The new
we were Dutch Reformed, and my whole family was forever. And then Dad married our mom, second mom. She was Mennonite. So in order to please Mom, Dad went to the Mennonite church, and I would wind up over there too, of course, with them. And then we'd be going back to the other church, back and forth. Well, the time came when communion we were supposed to take over in our Dutch Reformed church. They found out that Dad was attending the Mennonite church, and that is a no-no. So they would not let Dad take communion at church, and that made him furious.
He had a temper.
And after that, we did not go to the Dutch Reformed Church anymore,
Okay.
because that was it for Dad. So then we wound up at the Mennonite church, and of course that's where we got the care package, and that's how the whole thing came about, that we wound up over here eventually. Yeah. Interesting how life goes.
Yeah.
How large was that Mennonite church your dad joined?
How many people are about? Oh, maybe 150. Yeah, it was not a big church. The Mennonite churches were not very big over there.
Were there many Mennonite churches in
Oh,
Friesland?
Yeah, because Mom was raised, at her Mennonite church over by here of Vander, and the grandparents or other new grandparents, they went there because he was
Custodian.
custodian. Grandpa was of the Mennonite church over there, where Mom used to go, or she did go.
Sure.
And they had a woman preacher.
Really?
Cannot believe
Yes, I had never heard of that until we went over there. They had a
I
woman
know.
preacher. She was quite a preacher though. But I'm telling you,
But that was in Charlotte where Mom came from.
Charlotte, yeah.
Yeah, that's not.